Welcome to Simple Software Tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve a basic cryptogram using the VLOOKUP function in Excel. We'll do that by entering the cryptogram into Excel, one letter per cell. Then we'll create our own key and use VLOOKUP to figure out the puzzle. Now, I don't want you to worry if you're not very familiar with VLOOKUP. I'm going to walk you through it and explain it, so don't let that intimidate you. This might actually help you better understand how it can be used. And this video is meant to be used with cryptograms that use simple substitutions, basically the same replacement letter for each letter in the cipher. So F will, anytime we would see an F here, it will always be converted to the same letter. I believe these are called Aristocrat ciphers, or at least they're very similar to those. And this example that I'm using comes from a book called Cold Case Puzzles, and this is from Brain Games. I just got this on Amazon. I've been having fun working the puzzles, and this actually came in handy because we the other night we did a hunt a killer game, and part of it was cryptograms, so I had already prepared for that, so pretty cool. So okay, let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these first two columns. So that's the key part of what makes a VLOOKUP function work. So the first column here, I'm just going to call it L1 for letter 1. So what this is going to represent is the letters that are in this cryptogram. So what I'm going to want to do is enter the alphabet down here. Now it doesn't matter if you have it in, I'm just going to enter in all caps, but you can use all caps, all lower, variety, whatever you want. It actually doesn't matter in this situation. Okay, so I've entered my letters down here. I just copied and pasted them. I had them in another sheet, so you can do it manually or whatever works best for you. So now the second column here, column B, I'm going to call this L2. And again, you can name these whatever you want, or if you can remember which is which, you don't have to label them at all. It's just for your own reference. So what this column is going to represent is what these letters translate to. So the way the VLOOKUP function is going to perform is anytime it sees one of these letters, it's going to replace it with these letters. Okay, so we don't know what these letters are yet, so we're just leaving it blank. I'm just going to highlight these two and double click here in between, and that's going to shrink them down so they don't take up as much room. So now for the fun part, and I know this sounds kind of tedious, but doing these puzzles manually is very tedious, so I don't think it's that tedious. So we need to enter every single one of these letters into its own cell in this puzzle. Now I've already done this, so I know that the most cells I'm going to need is about 45 cells to answer this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from right about E. I'm going to click on E so I can highlight the cell, and I'm just gonna round up to 50. So I'm gonna click on E again and hold it down, and I'm gonna drag it over. And as you see, you can see that it is counting up here. You can see there's a ton of rows selected, and I have 8 columns right now, 9 so far. So I'm gonna go until I hit 50. Okay, there we go, 50. Okay, so I have these cells highlighted. Don't click anywhere. Okay, so anywhere above any of these cells, we're going to right click and select column width. Okay, so we want these to be kind of small, so I'm just going to enter like 2.5. Okay, we could even maybe make that a little smaller by dragging. When they're all highlighted like this and you drag it like that, it's going to resize all of them to this size that you've selected. So it's kind of handy like that. Okay, so that's pretty good. So next thing to do, and I'm not going to make you watch me do it, is we want to transcribe all of this into Excel, into these cells that we've just entered. Okay, so I have my text entered here. I kind of did I kind of tried to follow their punctuation in here. I left out commas, periods, stuff like that, but uppercase, all of that stuff. And don't worry if you have little error things like this, or like, what's going on, this looks different. Don't worry about that. As long as it matches what's on here, we're good. Now for me, it's a little difficult to see, like, where So we're going to put the answers down below the text here. So what's helpful to me is I'm just highlighting these lines and I'm filling them with just a light color just to make it a little bit easier to see. So again, I'm just clicking here, I'm dragging while I click over, and then I'm just clicking on the paint bucket here to fill these. So you don't have to do this, but it makes it a little easier for me. It helps me differentiate between the code and where I'm going to enter in my my VLOOKUP formula. So I'm just going to keep doing this. You don't have to watch. Okay, so we're almost done with the not so fun part. We're getting to the fun part. So now we're going to start entering our formula. Now, even though we don't have the answers entered here, that's fine. As we enter them, once we get the formula put in here, it'll just auto-populate under here, which is one of the best things for these puzzles. So you don't have to write and erase and all of that stuff. So I'm going to start here under F right here in this cell. So I'm going to click in there, make sure you just have one cell entered for right now. And what I'm going to do just to make sure it works right, I'm just going to enter, I'll just enter 5 there. So we know that if a 5 appears under here, that everything's working as expected, because when we enter this formula, it should look down this list, it should find whatever letter is right here, so F, and it should put whatever is next to it right there. So it'll translate this for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this FX right here, this insert function. So this is going to open this up, and I want to use VLOOKUP. So I'm just going to type VLOOKUP and hit enter. There it is. Click on OK. Sorry if that's a little blurry for you. It's a little blurry for me, or maybe I'm blurry. Okay. Anyway, so what we're going to want to do, lookup value. So this is okay. Where do we find this number letter that we want to look up? Okay, well, we want to start here. So we want to look in the cell right above it first. Now the table array, okay, I know this can be a little confusing. So this is asking, where should we look? Okay, where is your data stored? So we always want our like if you have a list, if whatever your first thing you want to look for and then match it to, you always want that on the furthest left. Okay, so our table array, we're just going to select, and we don't have to select the top columns. You can select these two, or you can just select the letters, whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to select these letters here. Typically, I'll just select the 2 columns because I have a tendency to just add stuff, you know. So the thing is, okay, before we go any further, we're going to throw some dollar signs in here, and we're not throwing money at this. We're telling it that we always want it to look from A2 to B27. We don't want it to shift, because sometimes what Excel will do, trying to be helpful, is if you move down in cells, it will also move down your formulas. So, you know, maybe for this one it would start at A2, but down here it would start at like A7. But no, we always want it to search A2 through B27. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter a dollar sign before A. I'm going to just tap my over button, and then a dollar sign before A2. So it means that regardless of what is in the lookup value here, it will always look in A2, and then we're going to do that in front of B27. Okay, and we don't have to put it before the 7 because we want to go through 27, not 2. Okay. Now call index number. So this is saying, okay, so here's your table. Now which column do you want me to look in? Okay, now this can get a little confusing too. So it's not asking like column A, B, whatever. Okay, this is asking for a number. So since we only have 2 columns, we're going to look in the second column. Okay, and you can see it starts showing you the answer there. Remember how I said, hey, let's put a 5 here just to test it? Okay, cool, we see the 5 there. Okay, so this means it's working exactly how we want it to. Okay, and this we don't need to put the dollar signs in front of because it's just a number. It's not an actual cell or location on this spreadsheet. Okay, And then range lookup, okay, this is just a logical answer. So sometimes if you have similar information in here, what this will do, if you leave it blank, is that it will find like the closest match. So say you're looking up names and you have Robert Smith and Robert Smith with an E on the end, okay? To it, it'll pull the first name that is most similar, okay? So sorry if that was a little confusing, but basically what we want to type here is false, okay? So this means that I only want it to show me an answer when it exactly matches that. So if I have like FE or FO, whatever, it'll ignore this, okay? If there's only an F, it's going to look it up there, okay? So just kind of a good practice if you want exact answers, always type false in here, okay? So we can already see that this is going to work how we want it to, so we're going to click on OK. There we go. So now we need to copy this down, and that's why it's important to put the dollar signs in there now, so when we copy it, I clicked on the cell here that has the formula in it. I'm going to click Control C, or you can click on copy, and I'm just going to paste it along here. Okay, so some of these there's some errors here. So anytime there's a space, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete it from the space, and then it doesn't understand numbers either. So we know that this is actually 2 years that we're looking at, so I'm just going to delete that there. Okay, now a way to make sure that it's still working, see I have an F here, and I'm gonna highlight all of these cells and I'm gonna center them, okay? That way everything lines up nicely. So this is my test here. Anytime there's an F, there should be a 5. And you can put other stuff in here if you want to. I just put a number so I don't forget that that needs to come out. So what you got to do now is copy this and just paste it under all of these letters. And you can leave it in the spaces if you want to, but that kind of bothers me. Just having the error message there. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so I have pasted my formula down here under all of the letters. Again, I'm leaving the spaces blank just so it's easier for me to look at. Now, you might notice that there's a bunch of zeros here. If that's annoying to you, which it kind of is to me, there's a quick way to make that go away. If it doesn't bother you, then you can just leave it, but it's pretty easy to hide that. So I'm going to click on File, and then go down to Options, and then click on Advanced, and then scroll down towards the bottom, not all the way, but right down here, Display Options for Worksheet. So where it says Show a Zero in cells that have 0 value, we're going to uncheck that, and that'll hide those zeros. So I'm going to click OK, boom, they're gone. So again, to just make sure it's working as expected, we should see 5s everywhere we see an F, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and delete that since I know that this is working. Okay, now that we've taken a few minutes to do some prep, now's the fun part, solving the puzzle. So what we can do is just kind of take a look at some of these letters and see what we can maybe figure out. And the best thing about this is that you just start typing some letters in here and it puts it in here, and if it's right, it's right. If not, then you can easily change it. You don't have to erase anything. So I'm just kind of looking at this, and it's saying, okay, 2005 something 2009. I think this is and. Okay, so remember, we don't want to type here. So what I want to do is I want to find E, because that's the letter in the puzzle. So I think E is actually A. So every time there's an E in the puzzle, this will automatically pop A down below it, okay? Now R, I think, is N. And then H, I think, is D. Okay, so you can kind of start looking through, seeing what makes sense, and kind of figuring out what this might say, okay? So something 2005 and 2009, something something, and we know that this is a cold case, so it's probably about some murder or some crime or something. So just with that in mind, just kind of looking at these words, what can we figure out here? Okay, we have words that have multiple letters in a row. This one, so 3 letters. Do we see this often? So we see XLI here, we see XLI here. So it's not and, but it's another common 3-letter word. So maybe I think XLI is the, THE. So what I can do is I can enter under X, so X would be T, and then L would be H, and then I would be E. So what's fantastic about this is that it fills out so much information. It makes it so much easier to solve these puzzles because you can see the words start to populate in here. And it looks like this could be correct because we've got a word here, we have death, and we know this is a cold case cryptogram, so it is, you know, crime related, so that would make sense. So that's pretty encouraging that we see different letters here. Now this one is almost solved here, so it looks like this is spelling between. So I would find F and I would put a B here. Oh, not anything else. B, so we can see that fits, and then A would then be W. So between 2005 and 2009, the something, so again, we keep looking for these words. So we see SJ, that's 2 letters. It's a 2-letter word, but there's also SV. So trying to figure out, like, is that of, is it wouldn't be it. These would both start with an O, if that made sense, you know. So you just keep going through, you keep plugging in words here. This looks like it spells out determined, okay? Just looking at the letters here, R, M, I. So V would be R, deter, and then Q would be M would then be I, determined. So we're seeing this stuff fill out. So we just keep going through, filling stuff out. If you find, you know, you put in a letter, so say we think, you know, O is P, and I'm just going to put it lowercase so I know for sure which one it is. But if we look in here and see that, you know, does that make sense? Is there even an O in here? But if it's wrong, you can just delete it. It'll update the puzzle and so on. So you just keep going through and entering this out. So y'all don't need to hear my thought process on doing this, so I'm going to work my way through it, and then we'll come back in just a moment. Okay, so I have this covered just in case you want to do this and don't want it spoiled, but the rest of this video I'm just going to be showing you the puzzle. So if you don't want it spoiled, now might be time to tune out. Otherwise, here we go. Okay, so we're getting really close. I've almost cracked the case, you know, the code here. So between 2005 and 2009, the bodies of 8 young women were found in or near Jennings, Louisiana, several in canals, because the bodies of the victims, called the Jennings 8, were badly okay, so we know T is P, decomposed. The cause of death could not always be determined. Many of the women, okay, so we're missing one here, so O would be K, knew each other. While several people have been arrested in connection with the case, all suspects were eventually released for lack of evidence. No trial has ever taken place. And this is a true crime if you want to look it up. Kind of interesting, in Jennings, Louisiana. But that's basically how you can solve a cryptogram. And yeah, it seems like maybe it's a little labor intensive, but if you think about manually writing all this down with, you know, pencil and paper and all that stuff, this is probably actually a lot faster and a lot easier once you get comfortable with using VLOOKUP. But I just think this is a really fun and interesting way to do this, and I think I will do some more videos and even how to create your own cryptogram and doing more complex ones like the ones that we encountered in the Hunt a Killer game, which is really fun. I got that on Amazon as well. pretty fun to do, just solving a cold case with your friends, or it's a fictional crime. So so yeah, I think this is a fun thing to do, and I think this is at least for me, this is an easy way to do it. Once you get comfortable with it, you will also you can do it pretty quickly. So I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tutorials. Leave me a comment if there's something you're interested in, or if you're into cryptograms and ciphers, if there's something specific you would like me to maybe try to figure out for you, just let me know. But I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for tuning in.